Alcohol poisons the soul, and let me tell you how. You're gonna have to stick with me till the end of this video to get the full and maximum benefits about what I'm about to tell you. One of the things that really made it tough was relationships. Well, alcohol kept me in this loop of ruminating to a point where I was ruminating about things that happened when I was 15 years old and I was 40 years old. Ruminating about what I could have done differently. Did I make the right choices? Could I have done something different? Which led to feelings of being ashamed. I wanted solutions. It turns into every weekend like a 40-ounce of beer, and then it turns into every weekend 2 40 ounces of beer, and then it turns into turning to other things maybe to satisfy an urge, and then it turns to looking for alcohol throughout the week, and then just starting to lean on alcohol more and more. And it's fun early on, and it's a release and a relief. And the longer you go in your drinking, the more you start to use it as a coping mechanism. That's just not a healthy way of living. We have some sandhill cranes here. Bird crossing. And this one's coming right up to my face here. Hey, buddy. Hello. You start using alcohol as a coping mechanism. When I was in my 20s, I really started to question the role alcohol was playing in my life. I felt terrible when I'd wake up. The hangovers were getting more and more difficult to deal with. I started to wonder, is there something more I could do in my life than drink? Because this is like 3 to 4 days a week, every other night, and I would just drink as much as I could tolerate. Man, I felt terrible the next day. And I had a bout with anxiety for about 10 years. Between 24 and 34, I just struggled so bad with anxiety. And I knew my drinking was causing most of it. But I was beating myself up. And the more I felt that way, the more my spirit was just aching, to the point where my soul was like crying out for help. I could not quit. And I really didn't give it much of an effort. I didn't know how to quit. So I didn't have the knowledge, and quite frankly, I didn't want to gain the knowledge. So I just kept doing it. Again, in my 30s, I started questioning it. I got to a point where I was drinking more now than I had in my 20s. I was drinking more days of the week. I was drinking the same amount that I was drinking every other night, because I could kind of tolerate the hangovers more, and I grew a tolerance for it. That just wore me down to a point where when I quit at 42, I felt like I had a whole new lease on life. I was always a faithful person. I believed in God, and I trusted that there was something better than this earthly world. At least I wanted to believe that, because how can it be any worse than the hell that I was living in with my addiction to alcohol? I didn't call it an addiction, I called it a habit. I said, you know, I could quit whenever I feel like it, but I like just sitting here watching sports and having beer after beer. I'm good at it, you know. I didn't really ever have, since I was a teenager, any hobbies or anything that I was really interested in doing. So drinking became a pastime. And I think that that happens to a lot of people. Now that I don't drink anymore, I have conversations or watch people with their drinking, I can kind of tell that they're in that same boat. Sometimes people will tell me about where they're at with it. Sometimes I can talk about where I've been with it and how I've benefited from not drinking. But you kind of have to live it to know it and to understand it. Those first 4 months of not drinking really opened up my eyes to feeling like I was healing. It was summertime, it was warm out, and I'd sit on my deck and I remember closing my eyes and letting that warm breeze hit my face. And I felt like I was just getting out of a hospital or a mental institution or somewhere that I had an illness. As that feeling progressed, I was overcome with gratefulness and joy that finally I was able to just get through these urges to drink by doing other things, by being vulnerable and talking to my wife more, talking to my therapist that I started going to a week after I quit, reading a couple of books, This Naked Mind by Annie Grace and Alcohol Explained by William Porter. And those two books, hand in hand, really made my alcohol consumption make sense to me and why I continue to drink and how it's possible to continue doing it even though you don't like it or don't feel good doing it anymore. Yeah, buddy. So are you there? Are you at that point where you're just like, man, this is just, I don't feel good even being buzzed anymore or drunk? Because if you are, there's hope. The next step, join my Facebook group, Sobriety in the Storm. Down in the comment section, I'll pin it to the top. It's a private group. 15 or so like-minded people right now. I'm looking to grow that group. Post every day on there. There's no judgment. You don't have to be sober to be on there. You can come as you are. If you're questioning your drinking or want to cut back or just looking for some camaraderie, some inspiration, some encouragement,